The towel was still damp. I remember because it was mine, and it was hanging over the edge of the bed I hadn't slept in for 3 nights. Her bra was on the lamp, one shoe on the windowsill. His damn hoodie was draped over the back of my gaming chair like he lived there, like this was his space now. They didn't hear me come in. I don't know how. Didn't even try to be quiet. Maybe they were too caught up. Maybe the universe wanted me to see it all frame by frame, like punishment for missing every sign. I stood there in the doorway, frozen. She was laughing, hair a mess, wrapped in a sheet that used to be part of our anniversary set. The one I ordered online because she said hotel sheets always felt more romantic. And there he was, shirtless, holding her foot, joking about how she should get a tattoo that says property of Chase. That was his name, Chase. Of course it was. The kind of name that thinks it owns rooms it didn't pay for. The kind of name that doesn't blink when it sleeps with someone else's wife in a bed that still smells like the man who paid for it. He saw me first. Didn't jump, didn't even flinch. He just smirked and said, like it was some sort of victory chant, "Looks like we've been caught." Then he grinned wider. This time, she's mine now. I didn't say anything, not right away. My pulse was in my ears, drowning out everything but the weight of those words. I wasn't angry, not yet. That would come later. What I felt in that moment was worse. I felt embarrassed, like the whole room was in on a joke and I was the punchline. But then I remembered the video. I'd sent it that morning to his wife. I turned my head slowly, made eye contact with him, and smiled. Not because I was okay, but because I knew something he didn't. "She saw the video," I said, just 5 words, and he went pale, like actually pale. The kind of pale that sinks into your gums and makes your eyes twitch. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Willa, the woman who used to be my world, wrapped the sheet tighter around herself and muttered, "What video?" She didn't know yet, but she would. Everything after that moment blurred. Not because I left, I didn't. I stayed. And what followed, what happened over the next 72 hours, made the video look like a trailer for the full disaster. Trust me. You haven't seen anything yet. It was 3:07 a.m. when my phone buzzed against the nightstand. I hadn't slept. The image of Chase's smug grin had etched itself behind my eyelids. Every time I closed them, I saw it again. Her body, his hand, my towel, over and over. I didn't even blink anymore, just lay there wide-eyed in the dark heart, beating like it was trying to climb out of my throat. Then it buzzed again and again. Unknown number. I almost let it ring, but something told me not to. And when I picked up, all I heard at first was static. No, not static breathing. Then a voice. "You sent it to me, didn't you?" My chest tightened. "Mara," a pause, a sharp inhale. I thought it was spam at first, but I watched it. I saw him. I saw her. In your house. Her voice cracked on the last word, like it physically hurt her to say it. I didn't know what to say. What could I possibly say to this woman who shared her life, her name, maybe even her kids, with the man who'd casually smirked while ruining mine? "I'm so sorry," I whispered, because it was the only truth I had left. She laughed, quiet and bitter. "No, don't apologize. You gave me a gift, a brutal, awful gift, but still. Now I know." Another long pause. Then I locked him out. He doesn't know it yet, but I changed the code. He's out on some work trip. He'll try to get in tomorrow. Let him pound the door. I sat up in bed, listening to her voice turn colder. There was power in it, rising from pain. "Mara, I think he's been with her for months, maybe longer." "I know," she said. "That wasn't their first time on that video. You could see it in the way he touched her." She was right. The way he leaned into Willa wasn't uncertain or hesitant. It was rehearsed, familiar, like they'd done. In every room in our house, like they had a map of my life and marked the spots to defile. Mara exhaled hard through the phone. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I said, and that was the honest truth. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want justice. What I wanted deep down was for someone to shake me and tell me it was. All a nightmare that I'd wake up, go into the kitchen, and find Willa eating cereal in my hoodie like she always did. "Still mine?" still laughing at dumb memes, still untouched by him. But I wasn't asleep. I have an idea, she said. What? There was silence, like she was thinking about the weight of the thing she was about to propose. Do you want to ruin them? I didn't answer. She took that as a yes. I have photos, messages, stuff I never told anyone about. I didn't want to believe it until now. But if you're ready, we can make this burn. A part of me wanted to say no, to walk away, to avoid the inevitable war. But another part, the one that had watched that video in full, the one that had stood in my bedroom doorway like a ghost in his own life, said yes. I told her to meet me the next evening at a small diner near the train station. Neutral ground. Nobody would recognize us. We talked and planned, and maybe, just maybe, took back a sliver of control. But Willa had other plans. At 9:41 a.m., she texted me, "Can we talk? Know you're upset? It's not what you think." That line, that classic line, not what I think. I had a full HD video file titled will_chase.mp for sitting on my desktop. What exactly was I thinking? Wrong? I didn't respond. But I did start recording everything: calls, messages, screen recordings, cloud backups. I even set up the living room cam again. New angle, better lighting. She was going to lie again. I wanted it documented. And then, later that afternoon, she came home. No knocking, no creeping in. Just bold footsteps, keys in the door, her perfume floating in before she even said a word. I stood in the hallway and watched her drop her purse on the floor like she owned the silence between us. Her voice cracked, but her eyes were dry. "Can we please talk?" I nodded, just once. We sat. She told me it was a mistake, that it meant nothing, that it just happened once, every syllable like a paper cut. I said nothing, just played the video on my phone and placed it face up on the table between us. The moment she saw herself on, screen laughing, moaning, naked, something shattered inside her. She didn't even finish watching. She slapped the phone off the table and screamed, "How dare you record me?" I didn't, I said calmly. The house did. Security cam, living room. Remember? The one you said we didn't need? Silence. She stared. At the floor, then at her hands, then at me. "What now?" she asked. "I'm going to dinner," I said, standing up. "With someone who knows exactly what you and Chase are," and I walked out. Her mouth opened to call after me, but I was already at the door. The sound of the deadbolt clicking behind me, that was the first time in days I actually felt safe. The diner Mara chose sat on the edge of a forgotten industrial block. The kind of place where time clung to everything. Faded menus, cracked leather, booths, the same waitress who'd probably served the same meatloaf since the 80s. It was perfect, anonymous, quiet, a little broken around the edges, just like us. She was already there when I arrived, wearing oversized sunglasses and stirring. Her coffee like she wasn't even tasting it. She didn't smile when she saw me, just gave a small nod, like soldiers acknowledging each other before going into battle. "I brought the texts," she said, sliding a folder across the table without ceremony. Inside were printouts, screenshots, of conversations between Chase and Willa that I hadn't seen, conversations that made me sick. Some were teasing and flirtatious, others explicitly cruel, laughing about me, calling me soft, saying I was domesticated like some neutered pet. There was one where Willa said, "He folds my socks and thinks it means love. You just tear them off." That one hit different. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Mara didn't interrupt. Eventually, I closed the folder and took a breath, though it felt like breathing in sawdust. "So what do we do with this?" She leaned back. "You said you wanted to break them." "Oh, know how." And then she outlined it. A plan so twisted, it sounded like it came out of a soap opera, except it was real, and every word made my pulse quicken. The goal wasn't to yell, not to scream or punch or post online. No, that would give them control. This was about making them implode under the weight of their own deception, publicly, privately, surgically. Step one was to invite them both to the same place at the same time. Chase's birthday was coming up in a few days, according to his Instagram, which Yes, I now checked obsessively. He was planning a casual dinner at a new rooftop bistro downtown. Mara messaged him, pretending she wanted to talk things over and maybe rebuild some trust. She told him she'd booked a private table at that exact spot, just the two of them. At the same time, I asked Willa to come with me to try and talk things through over dinner. I acted nervous, careful, like I was unsure, played into the image she already had of me, timid, desperate to forgive. I told her I'd made a reservation. To show her I was trying, she took the bait in seconds.
Hi.
Neither of them knew the other would be there. The restaurant was beautiful, in that soulless way high-end places always are. Dim lighting. Furniture made for aesthetics instead of comfort, and a host who smiled too hard. We arrived first, me and Willa, and were led to a secluded, glass-enclosed patio with a view of the city. She was wearing a green dress I hadn't seen in months. Her makeup was perfect, her lies polished. "I'm glad you asked me here," she said softly, placing her hand over mine like nothing had happened. "I've missed this, us." I didn't pull my hand away, not yet. We ordered drinks. She talked. I nodded. I could barely hear her. My eyes were on the elevator across the room. At exactly 7:42 p.m., it opened. Chase stepped out, alone, looking around for the woman he thought had come to make peace. His eyes locked on ours. First confusion, then dread, then something else. Panic. Willa turned her head to see what I was looking at. Her smile died in stages. Mara stepped out behind him. No one moved. It was like a live painting of four people suspended in a moment too heavy to breathe through. Then Chase did something bold or stupid, probably both. He walked toward our table like nothing was wrong. Willa stood up fast, knocking her wine glass into my lap. She didn't even notice. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. He didn't answer her. He looked at me, then calmly, like a man who didn't believe in consequences. He said it again. "She's mine now." That's when I laughed. Not hard, just enough. Then I stood up slowly and pulled my phone from my pocket. I tapped the screen once and turned it toward him. It was the same video, the same angle, but with a twist. A new voice added at the end, Mara's. Her narration quietly describing what they were doing, when they did it, how long it had gone on, layered over everything like a documentary. Chase blinked like he'd been slapped. I leaned in. "Your wife saw the video." Mara stood behind him, arms crossed, unmoving. And now, so did everyone else in this restaurant. Every one of these tables has AirDrop. I just shared it to every phone that was unlocked. There was silence, then gasps. A phone dinged, then another. Chase turned, his face ashen, as patrons began to stare. Willa's hand shook so hard she dropped her clutch on the floor. I could see it in her eyes. This was the moment she realized she hadn't just betrayed me. She'd undone herself. No yelling. No drama. Just quiet implosion. We hadn't even started yet. We didn't stay to watch the aftermath. That wasn't the point. I paid the bill, full tip and all, then left with Mara through the rear stairwell like ghosts exiting a fire they started. She didn't speak until we reached her car. That felt satisfying, she said, staring at the steering wheel like she wasn't quite sure if she was proud or nauseous. "It's not the end," I told her. "It's barely the middle." She nodded and drove away. I walked 4 blocks to where I'd parked, sat in the driver's seat for nearly 20 minutes with the engine off, and stared at my hands. I expected to feel strong, triumphant. Instead, all I felt was hollow. Like Chase and Willa hadn't just taken my wife and my dignity. They'd scraped out some part of me I'd never get back. That night, Willa didn't come home. I didn't ask where she went. The next morning, her mother texted me just 3 words. "What happened, Alden?" Out. And I realized then that Willa had spun a story. I imagined the version she told, the poor betrayed woman set up, humiliated in public by her unstable, obsessive husband. Of course, that's how people like her survive. They rewrite the scene while the fire is still burning. So I sent her mother the video. I didn't add a single word. At 1:27 p.m. I got a response. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." She's coming here for a while. No follow-up. No judgment, just silence. Willa texted at 3:02 p.m., "You're unbelievable. Do you know what you've done? My entire family thinks I'm a monster." I didn't answer. At 3:15 p.m., she sent another, "I made a mistake, but I didn't deserve that." That's when I realized how deep her delusion ran. It wasn't the cheating that broke her. It was the exposure. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted that people knew. That night, Mara called. She was quiet for a long moment before saying, "My sister told me Chase called their dad, said he was ambushed by psychos. No, they're trying to get ahead of it, spin it." I laughed bitterly. Let them. But what neither Willa nor Chase knew was that Mara had already dropped a letter with HR at Chase's company, along with timestamps phone records, and a polite note asking if their code of conduct allowed married senior team leads to have graphic relationships with married clients, spouses in their homes during work hours. Chase worked in corporate sales. His reputation was everything. The next morning, he was suspended pending an internal review. The same day, Willa found out her gym's private Facebook group had quietly removed her as an admin. Apparently, one of her fitness friends had seen the airdropped video and shared it with a few concerned moms. Public betrayal might not be a crime, but in suburban social circles, it's an execution. That evening, she finally showed up at our house. No knock, just the door swinging open, and her voice in the hallway, sharp, tired, broken in a way I didn't recognize. "We please talk like adults?" she asked, stepping into the kitchen like she still had a right to be there. I stayed seated. Arms crossed, watching her every move. She paced. "What do you want from me? Do you want me to beg? To cry? You got your moment. You humiliated us. You won. Now what?" I didn't speak right away. I wanted her to feel the silence, to understand that there was no version of this where she took control again. "I wanted to see if you felt anything," I said. "Not for me. It's just anything real." She scoffed. "Give me a break. Alden, I was suffocating. You never noticed. You just baked your dumb pies and followed me around like a puppy." It wasn't about him. It was about getting out. That hurt more than anything. It's more than the video, more than the texts. Yes, I did love her. Fully, deeply, pathetically. And here she was, tearing that down like it had always been a burden. "You could have just left," I said, voice small. She rolled her eyes. "You wouldn't have survived it." Then she walked toward the door, grabbed her purse, and paused. "I'll send someone to get the rest of my stuff. I'm staying at my mom's. Tell her thanks for the apology," I said. She didn't answer. As the door closed behind her, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there and stared at the fridge, remembering how she used to leave me notes on it in dry erase marker. "Get milk. I love you." Now it was blank. Later that night, Mara messaged me. She sent a photo of Chase's company website. Was gone, and underneath it she wrote, "Step 1 complete. Ready for step 2? I stared at the screen for a long time because I didn't know what step 2 meant, but I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. I thought step 2 would be another video, another letter, some kind of carefully orchestrated move in our little game of emotional chess. I didn't expect it to be a name I'd never heard before, delivered by Mara in the middle of a cold Saturday morning at a coffee shop near her sister's flower boutique. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around her mug, staring at the steam like it might tell her something she hadn't figured out yet. When I asked what came next, she looked up, her eyes tired but sharp. "Lena Carrington," she said. "You ever heard that name?" I shook my head. "Should I have?" "She's the woman Chase was with before me. They dated for a couple of years, broke up when he ghosted her. That's how she tells it anyway." She reached out to me when she saw my comment on that. Private Facebook posts about the video. Turns out she had a story too, a much worse one. Mara reached into her purse and pulled out a folded letter, handwritten. I unfolded it carefully. Lena's handwriting was small, looped, precise. The letter detailed how Chase had isolated her, emotionally manipulated her, cheated on her repeatedly, eventually left her while she was recovering from surgery, without warning, without closure. She included receipts, emails, even a copy of a wellness check filed by a concerned neighbor when she hadn't been seen in days. I read every word in silence. my chest tightening with each new paragraph. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a pattern. Chase wasn't some lovesick guy who fell for a married woman. He was a predator, a collector of chaos. And now, somehow, that chaos had been curated neatly inside the shell of my life. Mara leaned forward. She wants to meet us. Why? I asked. She said she's been waiting for years to see him fall. She just didn't expect it would come from the husband of his latest trophy. That word trophy clung to me like oil. It made sense. I wasn't a person to them, not to Willa, not to Chase. I was the guy you stepped on to climb to something more exciting. Mara and I met Lena later that evening at a bookstore cafe in River West. She was quiet, older than I expected, mid-30s. Maybe with auburn hair and a nervous energy that made her glance over her shoulder every few minutes. But when she spoke, there was strength buried in her soft-spoken tone. A strength built in the ruins of being broken too many times. She laid everything out. The same timeline Mara had discovered. The same tactics: love, bombing, gaslighting, then turning it all against the woman he'd charmed. She even had a photo of a gift Chase had once given her. A silver bracelet engraved. With the word mine, I almost dropped it when she showed me. Willa had one just like it. Identical. Step 2, as it turned out, wasn't an action. It was awareness. It was building a case against him, not legal, necessarily, but personal, human. A chain of evidence to connect every lie, every victim. Mara wanted to go bigger. She wasn't thinking just about revenge. She was thinking exposure. I want people to know what he is, she said. Not just a cheater, not just a liar, a manipulator. I don't want another version of me, or you, falling for it. That night, back at my house, I sat alone in the living room, the TV off, lights dim, listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional bark from the neighbor's dog. I looked around at everything that had once been a comfort, tainted. The couch where I'd held her after her father died. The rug where we'd sat eating pizza on New Year's Eve, the photo frame still. On the mantel, with our awkward vacation selfie from Maine, I should have taken it down. I should have burned it, but I didn't. Not yet. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Willa. I saw you with her. Is that what this is now? Some twisted rebound thing. Stared at the message for a long time before responding. Her name is Mara. You might remember her husband. You shared a bed with him more times than I can count. We didn't reply for almost an hour. When she did, it wasn't what I expected. I think I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a brick to the ribs. My whole body froze. I reread the message 5 times, trying to figure out if it was real, a joke, a trap. I didn't respond. Called Mara. She didn't sound surprised. She's trying to regain control. It's what they do. Wouldn't lie about that, I said, still hoping Willa had at least that much humanity left.
What?
Mara hesitated. Wouldn't she? And yet, some part of me still couldn't fully shut off the part that cared. The pathetic. The leftover part of me that still saw her as the woman I once loved more than anyone in the world. I told her we'd talk in person. I didn't tell Mara that. I planned to see Willa alone, and that was a mistake, because the next time I opened the door to Willa, she wasn't alone either. I should have known better. I should have seen the setup from a mile away. But when you've spent years loving someone completely, stupidly, with every inch of yourself, it's hard to believe they'd ever weaponize that love against you. So when Willa said she needed to talk and asked to come over alone, part of me wanted to believe she meant it, that maybe there was some version of the truth, some human piece of her still capable of remorse. But she didn't come alone. When I opened the door, Chase was standing 2 steps behind her, with his hands tucked, casually in his jacket pockets like he was walking into a restaurant, not the home he'd repeatedly desecrated behind my back. Willa was dressed in soft grays, eyes red and hair down, trying hard to look fragile. I didn't move from the doorway. She spoke first. Please don't freak out. He just came to. To what? I cut in. To smell the furniture? Maybe borrow another towel. Chase's face twitched just slightly. Yes. But Willa gave him a quick glance that almost looked like a cue, a silent agreement between them. That was the moment I finally accepted what I'd been denying. She wasn't under some spell. She wasn't manipulated. This wasn't a mistake. She was with him, fully, completely, and without regret. "We need to clear the air," Chase said, calm, measured. Like this was some corporate negotiation. "Things got out of hand the other night, and we think we need to get ahead of this." I laughed, not a normal laugh, something closer to a choked bark. You think this is a PR crisis you can manage?" Willa stepped forward. "I told you I might be pregnant, Alden. That's not something I can handle alone, and I don't need more drama right now. I came here because I thought you deserved to hear it in person. And why is he here?" I snapped. "Because he's part of this," she said, as if that made everything make sense. There was a pause, a long one. Chase shifted, took a breath, then actually said, "We're not trying to hurt you. But if it turns out the child is mine, we all need to be adults about this." Stared at him, blinking slowly. "You think there's a version of reality where I help? You raised the child you conceived in my home, with my wife, behind my back. I think you need to stop acting like the victim," Willa said, suddenly sharper than before. "You're not innocent in this either." It felt like my heart tripped over itself. I genuinely thought I misheard her. "Excuse me? You were never present?" She went on. "You were predictable, passive. You never challenged me. You just followed me around, baking pies and cleaning the gutters and waiting for me to throw you scraps of affection. You disappeared into the background of your own life, Alden." And just like that, I saw it all clearly. The story, not because she was sorry, but because it was easier to live with herself if I was to blame. I felt myself go cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver, but the kind that makes you stop feeling altogether. Numb. "Let me make something very clear," I said, stepping aside. "This isn't your house anymore, whatever version of me you... Remember, the guy who made waffles on Sundays and left surprise notes in your purse, that guy's gone. You buried him. So if you want to talk about custody or DNA tests or whatever twisted future you're planning, you can do it through a lawyer." Willa looked like she wanted to argue, but Chase, smug, strategic Chase, put a hand on her arm. "Let's go," he said. "He's clearly not ready to be part of this conversation." "Damn right," I muttered. She turned one last time before stepping off the porch. "If it is your child, you'll regret shutting me out." I didn't respond. I just closed the door. Then I locked it. Then I double-locked it. I sat down at the dining table, staring at the wood grain for a long time, my pulse barely calming. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just felt exhausted, like my entire life had become a long hallway of doors, and every time I opened one, I found another betrayal waiting behind it. Later that night, Mara called. I told her everything. The surprise visit, the threat of a child, the rewritten narrative. She was quiet for a long time before finally saying, "I think it's time for step 3. I sighed. Please tell me it doesn't involve another video." She said, "This one's different. This time, it's about you." I didn't understand what she meant at first. Then she explained her idea, carefully, slowly. I listened, and for the first time since all this started, I felt something dangerous flicker. Inside me. Not vengeance, not rage, purpose. Because step 3 wasn't about tearing them down anymore. It was about building me back up in a way they couldn't touch. When Mara said step 3 was about me, I almost laughed. The idea felt ridiculous. Life was in ruins. My marriage was a ghost, and I'd just been told I might be the father of a child conceived during an affair. How was I supposed to build myself up when everything I'd built had been burned down? But Mara wasn't talking about some inspirational pep talk or a fitness glow. This wasn't a Rocky montage. She was talking about exposure not of Willa or Chase, but of me, the real me. The version of myself that had been hiding beneath layers of guilt, shame, passivity, and exhaustion. The one who had let himself become a background character in his own story. "I've seen how you look when you talk. About the things you love," she said during one of our long walks through the lakefront park. "But somewhere along the way, you stopped living your own life and started orbiting around hers. Everything you did, everything you became, it was for Willa. And now, you get to choose who you are without her." I didn't respond right away. Just kept walking, watching the ripples on the water, reflect a sky that felt too calm for what I was feeling. But her words stuck long after we parted. I kept replaying them. You get to choose. And so I did. I started small. I pulled down the framed photos of me and Willa from the hallway, not with ceremony or anger, but like I was removing expired decorations after a holiday. I boxed them up along with her books, her mugs, her little decorative bowls that she claimed were for vibes. I even vacuumed under the couch cushions for the first time since before she'd started sleeping at work friends' places. Then I reopened the Etsy shop I had abandoned during the pandemic. Most people didn't even know I used to design custom. Wooden kitchen tools, rolling pins, serving boards, carved spoons with initials burned in by hand. It was just a side thing, a hobby I loved before Willa made me feel like it was cute but not serious. I posted 3 new listings, updated my profile, and left it alone. Within 2 days, I had 12 orders. Within a week, I had 43. Mara was the one who suggested turning it into something real. She helped me register the name, not Engrain, and within a month, she designed a logo, built a basic website, and even posted a few photos from our walks with Buster, my dog who'd become my unofficial mascot. Word spread faster than I expected. Someone shared one of my designs on a local cooking blog, and suddenly, I was getting DMs from strangers asking if I took custom commissions. And Willa noticed, because of course she did. The first sign was a comment on one of my posts, not under her real name, but I recognized her writing. Cute to see your little side hobby back. Still playing house with wooden glue? I didn't respond. But I did block the account. 2 days later she called. I didn't answer. Then she showed up again, this time alone, and left a note in my mailbox, handwritten. No apology, just confusion. I don't understand who you're becoming. This isn't you, but it was me. It always had been. It was just the version of me she never bothered to look for. The real shift happened when Mara invited me to a pop-up artisan market in the city. She got me a booth, helped me set up, even stood beside me in the freezing morning air while I arranged my pieces on reclaimed oak planks. I was nervous, fidgeting, sweating under my jacket. But then people started stopping, talking, asking questions, buying things. One guy placed a $200 order for 6 engraved cutting boards for wedding gifts. A local chef invited me to collaborate on a line of kitchen tools. Someone from a home decor blog asked for an interview.
Ow.
It was surreal. And at the end of the day, when the booth was packed up and my hands smelled like cedar and polish, Mara looked at me and smiled, not out of pity, but out of pride. She said, you never needed revenge. You just needed to be seen. That night, I finally allowed myself to reread Willa's last message. This isn't you. She was right. The version of me she thought she knew, that guy is gone. The one who whispered I love you while folding her laundry and waited for a thank. You that never came, that guy stayed behind in the wreckage. Now I was someone who made things with his hands and watched them be appreciated. Someone who was slowly crawling out from under the weight of someone else's expectations. But peace never lasts when you're tied to people who live in destruction. Because just when I thought I was settling into something close to healing, I got a knock on the door. Not a soft one. A hard, urgent, angry knock. When I opened it, Chase was standing there, alone this time, his jaw tight, his eyes red. You need to stop, he said before I could even open my mouth. Stop what? All of it, he snapped. You and Mara. You think you're rebuilding your little lives and exposing mine in the process? You're messing with people who know how to fight back. I stepped onto the porch, calm, steady. Funny thing about building something from scratch, it makes you less afraid of losing it. He shook his head, voice rising. You think this is noble? You think you're the good guy now? You're pathetic. I just smiled. Not because I wasn't scared, but because I wasn't the same anymore. You picked the wrong man to break, Chase, I said. Turns out I had a spine buried under all that softness. He stepped back, shook his head again, then left. Rage simmering under the surface like a man watching a house he meant to demolish, being turned into something better than he could ever build. And I stood there on the porch watching him disappear, thinking to myself, I'm not done yet. The final confrontation didn't happen with yelling or fists or some dramatic courtroom scene. It happened in the quietest place possible, on a park bench, under a canopy of red and gold leaves, while the wind carried in the first signs of autumn. Mara and I had agreed we were done with escalation. No more jabs, no more clever revenge. We both survived something poisonous, and neither of us wanted to keep drinking from the same cup. What we wanted now was closure, but Willa wasn't going to let it in quietly. She texted me again the week after Chase showed up at my door. Not angry this time, not manipulative, just uncertain. I think I really am pregnant. I need to talk to you, please. I agreed to meet her in a public place, not for her sake, but for mine. I didn't want to risk falling into old habits. I needed to look her in the eyes one last time and remind myself who she really was and who I no longer had to be. She arrived. Late, hair tied back, no makeup. It was the most natural I'd seen her in months, and yet she looked like a stranger. Like someone I might pass on the street and forget about 5 seconds later. It was a strange realization, but freeing. Not going to draw this out, she said, sitting beside me. I had the test. It was negative. I didn't respond right away, just watched 2 kids in the distance running in circles with leaves in their hair. I thought maybe if it had been true, I don't know, she added, that it would mean something. We'd have to talk, that we'd stay in each other's lives somehow. Now, I looked at her. Willa, there's nothing left between us, I said, calm, final. There's no version of this where we are in each other's lives. You made sure of that. You didn't just lie. You laughed while doing it. And now you're upset that I didn't fall apart. She flinched, barely. I was lonely, she murmured. I was bored. I was yours, I replied, all the way. But it wasn't enough. I'm okay with that now. She glanced over at me, searching. For something, regret, sadness, a crack in the wall? She didn't find it. Saw your little shop online, she said after a moment. It's nice? I nodded. It's mine. Every piece of it. And it's not little anymore. Orders doubled last week. That made her bite the inside of her cheek. I could see it. The small pang of watching something grow without her. I should go, she said softly, standing up. Chase and I... You don't need to finish that sentence, I interrupted. Whatever happens with him is yours to live with. She paused, then turned back one last time. You're not the same, Alden. And I smiled. Exactly. She left without another word. I sat there a while longer, just breathing in the cold air, letting the silence do what silence does best, settle things. That evening, Mara came by. She brought soup, a bottle of cider, and her ridiculous old board game collection. We didn't talk much about Willa or Chase. We didn't need to. That chapter was done. She stayed late, laughing harder than I'd seen in months. And when she fell asleep on my couch, wrapped in a throw blanket, I didn't feel alone for the first time in a long, long time. The next morning, I opened my inbox to find an invitation to be featured in a regional craft showcase. A photo of one. Of my cutting boards had gone semi-viral. Someone from a morning TV segment wanted to do a piece on small-town artisan stories. I smiled, sipping my coffee, Buster curled up at my feet, because somehow, against all odds,